The corporate giant Amazon has recently made a very peculiar decision, and one of the reasons they gave as to why they made this interesting decision is arguably even more peculiar. And the decision that I'm referencing is the one to raise their price for their Amazon Prime for all US users. And the reason that they gave, or at the very least one of them, as you'll see in just a second, is rising wages for their workers. So, because their workers are getting paid a bit more, they say they have to raise the price of their Amazon Prime, they say. And all of this is going on as Amazon has been experiencing, and I quote, record sales and profits. This is amazing. Before I get into this BBC News article that gives you a quick briefing of the situation, I just want you to take all that in and understand that that is how this system works. That's how it operates. That's how it always operated. And the system that I'm referring to is capitalism. So let's get into this. Amazon is raising the price of its Prime service for U.S. customers after reporting record sales and profits. The e-commerce giant said it was hiking the price by 17% to $139 for annual membership. The firm, which cited increased wage and shipping costs, said it had no announcements to make about other countries at this time. It is the first increase since 2018 for Prime, which gives subscribers access to benefits like faster shipping. More than 200 million people globally pay for the service, many of them in the U.S. Amazon shares soared almost 15% in after-hours trade on the news, which accompanied the release of its end of 2021 performance. Sales for the last 3 months of 2021 expanded by 10% year on year to $137.4 billion, but those gains were driven by growth in areas like its cloud computing division, Amazon Web Services, and advertising, while its e-commerce sales dipped from 2020 when the pandemic propelled blockbuster gains. The firm profits in the quarter also jumped to $14.3 billion, almost double the prior year. Its investment in electric vehicle maker Rivian, which floated on the stock market in November, drove those increases. For the year, sales rose 22% to $469.8 billion, sending profits to $33.4 billion. Analysts had been worrying about how the firm would fare after executives warned last year they were seeing higher costs due to supply issues and difficulty hiring workers. Amazon said the challenges had hurt and were likely to continue this year. It forecast sales growth to 3 to 8% in the first 3 months of 2022. The company said inflation, including higher wages, drove $4 billion more in costs in the final months of 2021. With the increase in the Prime fees, the firm is moving to shift some of its costs to customers. Amazon's chief financial officer, Brian Olsavsky, said some may quit Prime due to the fee increase, which goes into effect on February the 18th for new members and will apply after the 25th of March to existing members. But he said that hadn't been a problem in the past. Consumer spending in the U.S. has remained strong, despite prices rising at a 7% rate last year, the fastest inflation in nearly 4 decades. This is outstanding. This is outstanding what's happening. Let me break this down. So, as we are experiencing an inflation, just reality check, we are currently experiencing an inflation, and inflation is a general rise in prices. The current inflation rate, I believe last time I checked, is around 6 to 7%. So generally prices in this country have risen 6 to 7%. And as we're getting whacked upside the head with this inflation, Amazon has come about and decided that the millions of users in America that use its Prime service, as they're getting whacked upside the head with this inflation, Amazon has decided they want to whack you upside the head again and make you pay an extra 17% for one of their services, as they're swimming in dough than they have ever been before, because they're seeing record numbers in sales and record numbers in profits. And I don't know if you noticed there, but the number that they outlined, the $4 billion that they were supposedly be so hurt from the higher wages and the supply issues and whatever else bullshit they want to give us. The $33 billion in extra profit that they made was also cited in that article. Makes the $4 billion look absolutely minuscule. But this is what happens. Corporations, they come out, they cry, and they moan about their quote-unquote difficulties. It's no difficulty at all. They're swimming in cash. And they say they have to raise their prices. Another excuse. You see, these big executives, these shareholders, these CEOs, they fought extremely hard to get in the position that they're in. No doubt about that. And now that they're in those positions, they're incentivized by our economic system to do this sort of nonsense. It's a profit driven system, and all they see is dollar signs. And anytime they get the chance to make an extra buck, they will indeed do so. They don't care that we're in an inflation. They don't care that you're barely paying for the Amazon Prime at its current cost as it is. They don't care about any of that. You see, the way prices are dictated, and this is what they've learned in business school. I've never been to business school, but I know this is how it's done. They set prices on what they think the market will bear. So whatever they think that you, me, your grandmother, your sister, and your uncle will be willing to pay for whatever nonsense they're trying to press on us, that's what the price will be. And they've gathered together, not including any of us, of course, but just them and the other shareholders and executives and those people of those kind have gathered together and decided, okay, we think that the people will be willing to pay this much of an increase. They don't want to go too high and overshoot it, then the people will reject it, but nevertheless, they'll give it the price increase, and now they're satisfied with it, and now we're forced to live with the results. Does that seem like democracy? Does that seem fair? Does that seem moral and ethical when a small group of people, a minority, can get together and make a decision that affects millions? As many of those millions are currently struggling while we're in an inflation, while we're dealing with COVID, while we're in a pandemic. I mean, it's absolutely atrocious and egregious, this action. And to blame the workers, to blame higher wages for this nonsense. First of all, if you believe that higher wages are the cause of companies, of corporations raising their prices, you're either incredibly naive or you're on their payroll. It's either or, and I'm being as nice as I can. In order to figure out that a rise in wages are directly correlated with the rise in prices, you would need to approach Amazon and demand their books. I have news for you. They're not going to provide for you their books, because as soon as you look through them, you'll see and understand firsthand just how much malarkey this actually is. And since we're on the topic of wages and prices, there are many ways to curb a rise in wages than raising your prices. They cited supply cost or issues. There's ways that employers can cut on supply cost, on inputs, on machines. They have an endless, plaque of methods that they can go through to cut costs in different ways. Maybe they just get lucky. Who knows? But they damn sure don't have to raise the price. But the fact that they're seeing record profits and sales just knocks all of that shit down. It makes it not even matter. They're seeing record sales and profits, and they're deciding to raise their prices anyway. They're so greedy, this is what they decide to do. And once again, they're doing it because they can. They have been put in the position to do this, and they're simply doing it because they're able to. They have the ability to do it. There's really no other explanation for it. And they want to make profit. And all of the Amazon workers won't see a piece of this pie. No. I mean, they'll get the crumbs that's left over. And that's how it is. That's always how it is. And that's always how things have operated under this economic system. Another way to curb or to deal with rising wages for workers is for productivity to go up. And that's usually what happens when workers' wages go up. Their productivity goes up. But the interesting thing, there's this thing called the real wage, this thing that economists track called the real wage. The real wage in this country of America has been stagnant over the past several decades. But you know what hasn't been stagnant? You know what's been rising steadily? Worker productivity. Worker productivity has been rising, but wages have been stagnant. We have a word for that. It's called exploitation. I don't like exploitation. Look, man, I think this is cut and dry. It's obvious what's going on here. Even with the whole inflation, you have these big CEOs and all these businessmen and women and people coming out giving reasons as to why we have the inflation. Oh, it's supply chain. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Oh, it's monopolies. It's whatever. Listen, We know who raises the prices. The employees don't raise the prices. Don't blame this on the employees as if they played a hand in raising the price of Amazon Prime or anything else for this matter. The people who raise prices are the very people who are raising the price of Amazon Prime. It's the corporate executives, it's the owners of these big corporations, it's the CEOs, it's the people that have the ability to raise the price. Don't blame a price increase on people that have no ability whatsoever to do so. Nowhere in their job description does it say price increase maker or anything like that. Yeah, it's asinine, but this is what happens. And a small group of people get to make this decision, and the rest of us are forced to deal with it.